Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women started this Advocacy Day at the State House about 4 years ago. So myself, I was a commissioner with the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women, so I attended on behalf of the commission and the YWCA that first year by myself. And then the second year I started letting different people know so we could get a group to go to the State House to advocate for women's issues. So in speaking with one of the other commissioners, Jean Fox from the Bristol County Commission, we decided to form a partnership and try to get a group of women to go to the State House. So last year we were successful. We had a small van of 12 women with a couple of the commissioners, YWCA board and staff and volunteers, and a new partner, the Women's Fund of Southeastern Massachusetts, and we drove up in a van and went to the Advocacy Day. So this year our idea was to make it a lot larger, involve some of our program participants as well as some students.
We focus a lot on government and how young people can take part in government and participate. So our essential question for the year, it's on the wall up there, is what's my voice and how can I express it? So we started the year learning about basics of government, constitution. We moved into a unit on the suffrage movement. We looked especially at women's rights, and now we're finishing up our unit on the civil rights movement.
I think the conversation that we had was very interesting, and how a lot of the class was really intrigued with what they had to say and how they said it, because they really explained how they were passionate about this one particular subject and why they did what they did. And they were very passionate, and you could see that they were passionate about women's rights and how we're not as equal as men.
The fact that if a woman and a man are working in the same industry, a man gets paid more than a woman, which I think is really unfair. And so I find that so interesting because I'm like confused on it. I don't really understand why, and so I want it to be changed.
It's my first time going there, and well, I'm pretty excited because I get to go somewhere where we have the same thoughts as the other people who are going to go to the Advocacy Day.
I'm very excited because I get to share my opinions with other officials that might feel the same way that I do.
I think it's going to be interesting because I've never really met any state officials, and I think it's going to be fun because it's a new experience.
This is a wonderful opportunity for students to participate in that process. So I think it also reinforces what we are learning right now in class. Right now we're writing research papers around the question of, do young people have the power to change the world? So this is the perfect application of that essay, in that yes, you can go and you can talk and you can advocate and you can be part of the process. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I think it's a wonderful partnership, and I'm excited for Advocacy Day.
On behalf of the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today to advocate. My name is Victoria Budson, and I'm the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women. On either side of me, you see both representatives of the 19 volunteer commissioners who make up the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, as well as the chairs of many of our regional commission. Why are we all here today, and what are the commissions about, and what is it that we can accomplish together? So I wanted to share with you a bit about the history of why we're here and what we're doing. So first, and I'd also love to give a wonderful shout out to our Global Learning Charter Public School from New Bedford and from the sister school. Great job being here. And a special welcome to the men in the audience. Well done. The Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women was created by statute in 1998. You've met a number of the 19 volunteer commissioners, and they're appointed by the governor, the Senate president, the caucus of women legislators, and the Speaker of the House. And the reason that this permanent, effective voice for women was created is because it is challenging, even for good, well-meaning people, to get it right legislatively. It is hard to extrapolate the needs of others. And even when you want to do the right thing, knowing how to do the right thing and what the key issues are takes input. It takes input from an active citizenry. And there are those of you who are in this room today because you care deeply about women. You're going to be speaking with people today who want to get it right, and you're the expert. Sometimes people talk about women as if women were a small percentage of the population. People used to say a minority, but I don't like to say that anymore because when people say minorities, they're referring to the majority of the population, and that doesn't seem right. Women make up the majority in all 351 cities and towns across the Commonwealth. Getting it right for women isn't something we do if there's time or extra money. Getting it right for women and girls is the ball game. One of the bills we're advocating on today is the Equal Pay Act and the paycheck fairness issues. Women, on average in the United States, make 77 cents on the white male dollar. But when we look a little deeper, it's not the same for each woman and therefore for each family. African American women are making in the mid-60s on the white male dollar. Native American women are making 60 cents on the white male dollar. Latina women are making 55 cents on the white male dollar. It's not just important for each woman and her family to close this gap. It's important for everyone in Massachusetts. When women have more resources in their pockets, those resources are spent on Main Street. They enable entrepreneurship to be successful and businesses to thrive. Women prioritize spending on healthcare, on education, and on sustainable needs for themselves, their families, and their communities. What we're able to accomplish here together changes how every person's life feels. Now, people often sometimes think, well, why is it so important that women's voices are heard? Why can't we just have an advocacy day generally? And the reason that it's so important is though women are the majority, and note we also do the majority of labor in our communities, paid and unpaid. We do the majority of work in our homes. Women define what lives feel like, look like, and what they can accomplish. And we need a special day to focus on these issues because though we're the majority, we have been the silent when it comes to raising our voices, to have our power fully heard, to get outcomes that work for everyone. Good policy for women is good policy for everyone. We are very blessed that we have such a large coalition and a really spectacular group of commissioners. Our commissioners are not compensated in any way. They do this work because they believe in it and have the expertise to do so.
Some of the things we're going to talk about is single working moms and the minimum wage and how much it would cost or how much they have to earn just to make a living. In New Bedford, it's about $25 an hour, which is more than double the our minimum wage, and that's a very significant thing for daycare, for just survival, for education. And this is one of the main things we're looking for. And we've been working a lot with our domestic violence and with our youngsters all the way to the elderly, but we've been talking with Sam Sutter, well, it was Sam Sutter, but the new DA's office on how we can help everybody with that because it's become a very big issue.
So I'd also like to point out that it is truly an honor for me to be able to share with you one of the biggest strengths of the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women. That is our collaboration with the Women's Fund of Southeastern Mass, and their head is Val Bassett, and Tracy Calabrese is here. and members of the Leadership Council, as well as the YWCA of Southeastern Mass, and Gail Forts is here. You guys have made us all a stronger group. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. And in closing, what we heard about the Berkshires, we can echo. Housing, domestic violence, educational underattainment, too many families living in poverty, and they are headed by single women. They're not making the money they need to be self-sustaining. We've launched a task force, Val Bassett's at the head of that, to really study how we're going to give women a true pathway to sustainability. We're working collaboratively on that. And finally, keep in mind that Bristol County is home to several urban centers. Each one is a gateway city, which means that it has all of those issues to contend with. So I think rather than bore you with statistics, and sobering statistics at that, we are hopeful. We're going to make a change, as Victoria has indicated. This entity has been very successful at catalyzing change, and today marks the next step in that. Thank you.
I wanted to ask Jill Ashton to come up. Jill Ashton is our director here at the Commission. She has been with the Commission on the Status of Women for, wait for it, 10 years. There is nothing that has been accomplished by the Commission, through the Commission, for the Commission, or in the name of the Commission that Jill has not been a key architect, designer, and implementer of. And in addition to that, you know when there's these great women in your life who not only are deeply competent but completely lovely? She's one of those. So we feel very blessed to work with her all the time. We're happy that we have a new colleague, Kelly, who is also working closer with her. Is Kelly out at the desk? Kelly, give a wave. In a moment, Margot is going to walk us through all of the different steps, but I wanted to give Jill the podium so that she can also welcome you and share any additional thoughts that she has, and to give her a thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It's really wonderful to see everyone. We're just thrilled that you've chosen to participate in this important event. If you have any questions at all or need support in your visits, please do not hesitate to speak to either myself or to Kelly. We want to guide you and make you feel comfortable and confident, and we're just so happy that you've chosen to be part of this advocacy effort on behalf of the Commission. So thank you.
So you're here for Women's Advocacy Day?
Yes, advocating for equal pay, universal pre-K.
Okay.
Very important issues. I think we talked to you about it last year.
I'm supportive of doing more for free K, at least in terms of trying to prioritize where we can begin. With the idea that I think the older cities, the gateway cities should get the first. They need it the most. They can benefit from it the most. So hopefully we'll see something forthcoming in the House, this legislative trend, because the speakers mentioned something to that effect. But I wish you, I wish you a productive day. Hopefully you'll get to see some of my colleagues. As I came in this morning, I saw a lot of cars in the lot.
I think we've come to a point where it's been discussed for decades of women having equal pay to men in particular same positions. It's about time that we really act on it now. There's study after study. There are naysayers, obviously, but I think it's an important aspect of public life is to make sure that we protect women in their opportunity for employment. There shouldn't be a glass ceiling anymore. In addition, I think one of the things is there'll be naysayers, so we want to make sure we have some studies done, and expanding that through that program would be a great opportunity for women and our society at large. We always talk about our children, protecting our children, and caring for our children. Studies have shown that the pregnancy of a woman is key to their healthy baby. So if there's anything that we can do, particularly in the workplace, to assist women who are pregnant and just after birth, it's an important part, because those are costs that somewhere down the line could be detrimental to us as a society.
We've been at this issue now for several legislative sessions. Actually, in the past, we've had full debate in the House chamber on this issue. It's about disability coverage, insurance coverage for females versus males. Right now, the way the industry deals with that is they charge, the rates are higher for females than males. And what we would like to do, or the objective of the bill, is to make that the same rate, regardless if you are a male or a female. Obviously, the industry opposes this. They've been opposing this for quite some time, and they believe it's more costly to provide that kind of disability insurance coverage for females than males. And one of the premises is because females live longer. That's part of their argument. And we don't believe that that's how we should be dealing in terms of these issues versus female and male. I think you buying the same insurance, the same coverage, should pay the same rate. This is about you being able to go and take care of either your child or your sick parent or yourself or your spouse, and take up to 12 weeks off from work. Your job is guaranteed when you come back, and being paid for it. Right now, there's a federal law which all states have to comply with, which is 12 weeks of unpaid family leave. And again, if you work for an employer that has 50 or more employees. This state version that I have filed, you would have to work for an employer that has 11 or more employees. So it would actually broaden the coverage in terms of that, and it would be paid. This bill would also address other issues, such as breastfeeding in the workplace, things of that nature that this bill would make, so employers would have to make reasonable accommodations for certain aspects of when you have a child.
I think it was very informational, and to hear other women speak about the same views I have and about the bills about equal pay and sex education, I think it was very good to hear about that.
It was a very important day to meet some of the senators and learn some of the issues that are going on in the life I live in now.
I've never been to the State House before. I feel like I gained courage. I feel like I gained courage because I wouldn't really talk about any of the kind of situations that go on at home.
Some of the best lessons you learn while you're in school or when you're out of school. And especially now, because our schools are so test-driven, that things like this, teaching kids how to advocate for themselves, little things like making eye contact when you talk to people, the importance of shaking hands, and actually seeing who your elected officials are. It's very important.
I think one of the most important issues they discussed today was the sex education bill, because it's very important to not only know about abstinence, but it's also very important to know about contraceptives. You need to be informed about all decisions and choices.
I think the top issue I can think off the top of my head is the pre-K, because I know my brother, I have 3 brothers and 1 sister, so they all went through first grade, and now in this day and age they focus more on MCAS now, so doing MCAS stuff in first grade. So if you're not doing pre-K, you're not advanced, so when you're first grade you're like extremely behind in these days.
Disability insurance. Because my mom has a lot of disabilities and she has to pay 75% more than men, and also she's also not getting the same amount of money. She has 3 children to take care of, so it's difficult.
Pay equity for women, absolutely. It's way overdue, and it's going to affect these young women and these young men. And I think, because of all the change that's happened, these kids, I don't think they realize all the fight that had to get us to this point. So it's good for them to see that there's still more to do, so that they can appreciate what they have, and hopefully move us forward.
I think it's really important. In fact, I wish that I had the opportunity to do that when I was a student. It's giving them an opportunity to learn how they can be involved as citizens. They've talked to various senators and representatives. They've gotten to learn about the democratic process and how government works in Massachusetts. And they also get to see that they can have a say if they're interested in an issue or in an upcoming law, they can, make an appointment and come here themselves and talk to, representatives about it.
I felt that it really tied in, with their curriculum and what they were learning. Actually, the charter students were learning about politics, so it fit perfectly to what they were doing. And the gender roles was actually something that they were discussing, and how, there's less women in government and those types of things. So I think having that knowledge base, understanding the process, helps them, make informed decisions as they, grow and graduate from school and, register to vote, and understanding that, every vote counts, So I think it was important and wonderful opportunity for the students to put what they learn, actually into practice. I looked at it as an educational field trip.
There were a lot of first-timers there, so I think that's really important to note, that I think probably at least 3/4, if not more, of the women, boys, and girls who went, it was their first time to the State House, their first time to visit a legislator. And that's so powerful, because once you get that taste of, I can do this, these are my elected officials, I have a right and a responsibility to participate in this process, you can catch the bug and really empower yourself and others. So we know starting young is great, but starting at any age is great. We know that it's also pretty intimidating, and so just to walk in without any preparation is daunting. So the Commission on the Status of Women and we and the YW also collaborated on training. And we did the same thing at Global Learning and at our sister school. So it was a chance for people to really prepare. So we invested in that as well as the bus. And I'm sure you've heard we went from a van of 12 last year to a bus of 50 this year. So I think that speaks to the real hunger and excitement to learn and participate among not just the women, but the people of this region in working on meaningful solutions to these challenges.
Well, I think it's important because it affects their day-to-day life right now. Many of the students talked very eloquently about the struggles that they see their parents facing. A lot of them live in single-family homes, might be with a mother or a grandmother, and how they're struggling just to make the day-to-day ends meet. So having the equal pay for equal work bill was particularly important to the young women at our sister school who are students, and the young men who were students at Global Learning Charter, because they see the same struggles that their parents face and the sisters or their future partners. So they want to make sure that it's important as to have the male voice, in this issue, that it's really important to have equal pay.
We can't solve the problem of women's and girls' economic opportunity without educating, engaging more people. And we especially want to engage low-income women and girls. And we also want to engage boys and men in the solution. This is really a community issue. It's not just a women's issue. We're talking about women, many single families in New Bedford and in the area. So this is really the next generation as well we're talking about.
I've already had preliminary discussions with a couple of our partners to see how we can take this to the next step. Not just with the students, but just in general, make it larger next year, involve more people from not just New Bedford, but really expand it to Greater New Bedford, maybe Fall River. Involve more from Bristol County, actually, to go to the Advocacy Day.
I personally have a real passion for advocacy and civic engagement as something that's both personally empowering as well as making social change. So I think it's a very, very important in both those ways for women and girls, but also for all low-income people, people who are disenfranchised in any way from the system, to be able to understand and use those tools of democracy to really make change. Because unless everyone's at the table to solve the problems, we will continue to have the status quo.